So approval of the minutes from April 6th has been moved and seconded. Does anyone have any comments? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. So the minutes are approved. And that brings us to new business, and I can turn things over to the staff for approval of fiscal year 2023 actuals and review of the 2024 budget.
So, yeah. So Simi's gonna do the presentation and Michelle's going to present, if that's okay. It should be on that packet. I'm keep on scrolling past the agenda item. No?
Oh, you only got the agenda, not the five. Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
That's better.
It's under the Stormwater Oversight Committee meeting too. It's actually, if you go to the webpage, the packet's there too. I think it's her. Oh yeah, Michelle, you're first. We flipped it around in the slide packet. I apologize for the delay. We are still understaffed and we're also onboarding new staff. So
We're fine.
apologize for this.
So there are some financial pages attached.
There are, we just did the packet separately. So if you
And
can scroll down, we can figure that out.
If we go over, we can still keep the room, right?
Yeah, no, I don't think we're gonna go over anyway.
Okay.
Michelle, if you don't mind going to the financial side, because we just flipped them around and I didn't catch that. They're in different order.
What are we gonna do?
Okay. And that's why we gave you guys the printout, because we did not expect you guys to be able to see all this. It's the name.
Where's it at?
So it's in the back, so it looks like this, okay?
I need to sit next to you.
I just happened to notice it.
And then also, probably the future pages are more interesting for you guys. This kind of gives you the whole historical, because we thought it'd be interesting for you guys if you were wanting to see what has happened to the fund. Simi's been doing a lot of analysis on source and use and trying to understand what the money flows coming in and out of the budget.
Good.
So we'll let Simi walk through this one. I think you can talk.
Okay.
Don't think you need the mic, but.
So like Carl mentioned, this first page with all the wonderful, colorful numbers is our historical from 2018 to 2023 actuals. And then we have the last column with our adopted year 7 2024 budget.
Can you remind me just real quickly, what's the fiscal year dates? So when is it calendar or is it July?
July to June 30th.
So when you call it fiscal year 2023, I know this is silly. Is that the last half or the first half of the year? So I'm just indexing.
So what I look at it is when you go FY 23 to 24, then that's like that. The second number 24 is going to be like your actual year, right? That's how we.
So we're currently in
24. Yeah.
21, 22. I just didn't know which
Yeah.
year that was.
So the 21 to 22 would be fiscal year 22. If you think about it in fiscal years, everyone likes, this is the challenge about the joy of fiscal years versus calendar years.
So 23 would be FY 22, 23. That's
For fiscal year 23.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to, so when it goes year 5, 2022, that would be 2021/2022. Perfect, that's all.
Yeah.
So just real quick, if we buy something that has a life, 20-year life, let's say, or something like that, then we amortize it. Then every year it goes into our an amortization column. And every time we add something, that column can go up. So our annual costs of amortization and O&M can be accounted for. So we can't just say we're gonna buy something and not have it impact our budget down the road, that's all I'm
Right,
saying.
which is why we are doing analysis on the fund, on a lot of Michelle's projects, we have to we couldn't start year one until we would
Money saved
rebuild
up.
the money
Right,
to get that.
right,
And then obviously every time we raise the rates, there's a lot of our salaries and benefits, and those have also gone up. And they haven't necessarily correlated with the rates.
right, so that O and M, or whatever all those columns are. They have to be, every year maybe be updated because the cost went up.
Correct, and they do,
Good job,
in the
good job.
budget, when we do budget analysis, we're actually starting right now for base budget.
Okay.
We are looking at that and putting that into, to project out what our needs are going to be. And then whatever is the delta that's left over will be going into the reserves.
So you might wanna do something, but you say down the road, we really can't afford it. So at least okay, good
So
job.
we're always analyzing what our capital work is, what our O and M is gonna be, and how those costs are gonna go up. And then we have to compare it to what the money is coming out.
And that goes
It's
back-
no different than like a household budget, right?
But then
Yeah.
it goes back to your staff requirements as well, which
Correct.
may or may not be met, okay.
Correct.
Good,
Next page.
The next page this is probably something you can actually read.
Yeah, so this is more dialed down, and this is the adopted budgets from 2018 to 2024. If you guys have, you wanna take a look and see if you have any specific questions.
This,
You-
go ahead.
Do you have any I mean, you're presenting the numbers, but if you're analyzing, do you have any observations on what you're seeing in the numbers in terms of trends or issues or any item that you would bring to our attention? Because it's any area that you need input?
I guess that's a good question. When you're some of it, you're trying to guess what it's gonna cost, or based on past experience. And I think your question is how are you doing? You missed any of those numbers, or is there anything we should think about budget wise that you underestimated because costs have gone up? That kind of question. Maybe, is that right?
So we will hit on the CIP stuff during the presentation that Daisy and Rajiv are gonna get to.
Okay.
But I don't know if you guys wanna add anything else on any of the other.
Well, every year we're looking at, I mean, the municipal regional stormwater permit just got updated. And so we're trying to figure out how we're gonna comply within the confines of the budget. So that's something that we're always challenged with, and at some point in time, we may end up not being in compliance because we don't have the budget.
Right.
So we're unique as a city that actually has a storm fee. And that's something that we're always looking for as many grants as we can, leveraging our existing finances and funds. So in terms of feedback, probably Bob, when we discuss the capital ones is where we're really projecting it out over the 13 years. Because we have to remind everybody, we have the ongoing fee, which covers essentially what we determined at that point in time was our ongoing maintenance and stormwater compliance, but it did not take into account future regulatory demands. And so that may be something we'll have to dig into
Right.
and make a recommendation that either we can or cannot move forward. So far we've been limping along. But there might be some in the future that we're gonna have to make some hard decisions on, and we'll bring those to the committee. But we have to, because of the ballot and the fee, we are required to complete those 13 projects that we already have allocated. So our hands are kind of tied to what we don't really have a lot of flexibility.
So you get caught, you just add more money somehow.
Or it's maybe potentially general funded money or something
okay,
else.
okay.
I mean, and that's gonna be a citywide decision. It'll be council direction. And that could be something that the committee, if we identify that we don't have enough budget, we'll be coming back to you guys, and then that would be something in your budget letter to the city
Okay,
if there's a need.
good.
So we're currently reviewing requests for fiscal year 25. It's crazy.
Okay.
I mean, I think in general, and I'll let Vicky go on in comparison of her project that's going to, that we recently, we're going to award a contract soon. But in general, I think fees have gone up, costs of construction have gone up as we expect. I mean, that's sort of standard practice. What I found interesting on the bids that we received for the last project, for example, is we only had one bidder. So that's another aspect of it, which kind of changes things for us, because we you know, we hope that based on competitive bidding, we may be able to get better bids, better amounts. But the costs are comparable, I would say. There's a couple elements into it that are a little bit more expensive than we had originally forecasted. But again, it stays within what we had assumed, or in general, for
You're
the
allowed to
project.
accept one bid.
But yeah, we only had one bid.
If you only have one, you don't have to go out and rebid or anything.
don't.
You are allowed to accept one.
We were allowed to accept one.
It's a tough one. I mean, I've read a lot of the highway projects now are getting one bidder.
Yeah.
So it's all over the place.
Yeah,
And then also keep in mind too, because I'm hoping for next, when we come back with budget, we'll discuss that a little bit more, where we may do some tweaks to the base budget that we've been looking at. You know, currently, we have not necessarily been spending $100,000 on these innovative projects. We've been utilizing that money for consultants to help us determine what would be make the most sense for innovative projects. So, and that's something we come back to you guys every year. And so we'll be February probably timeframe.
Okay.
That'll be a time we'll come back and discuss those things with you. I'll go to the next slide. Did you have anything else you want to talk about on that slide?
No, it's pretty much, I think you guys the most fluctuations.
On the quality of the work that you do, I think, you know, we're reviewing, I think, you may have to get staff, but you're lucky that you have the staff you have. I mean, you really are, so thank you.
Yeah, thanks. We are very lucky. So this one, the green one, if you have looked at budget books.
Yeah, this one. That's all of the.
13.
So this is from our adopted budget book. If you guys want to take a look, see at all the various projects that are listed.
So,
When, I mean, this was the one that was interesting to me. So when you say 13, if I was advanced in math enough and counted those rows, I would see 13. So is that jiving? And then if I was trying to imagine our mission across the when we did the bond measure and raised the money, is it this lower right-hand corner where we might say we're gonna land this puppy? I mean, this is, so are we targeting, does the forecast look like where we wanted it to be given what we were anticipating, or are we overspending or underspending? Because as I recall, you know, we started out with balances in the fund.
Yeah.
And we wanted to leave balances in the fund.
well, the balances in the fund were predominantly to finish the projects that were in the previous ballot. And
Right,
so that was the pump station projects.
yeah.
So Michelle
Yeah,
Shepherd.
Madero.
and that
Good
era.
for you to remind me of that, okay.
Yeah, so that was why we left money in, and it might be the same here too.
Did we have a
They-
reserve as well or not a reserve?
Well, we don't, it's not technically a reserve, it's a fund
Yeah,
balance
right.
where we're
Okay.
trying to restock it, so that way we can do future capital work for
Right,
Michelle's team. So it's allocated, it's not like a reserve of extra money that we can have just to do stuff.
But you need something for an emergency, I would hope, you know, I mean,
Well, if there's emergency stuff that, like what happened with the storm, the
Right.
massive storm last year, a lot of that came out of the general fund.
Okay,
So that's just how the city, because that's not what the ballot initiative did not give us the authorization for emergency stormwater.
okay.
It was for ongoing O&M, you know, of
Okay.
the storm
Yeah, I
and
mean-
compliance.
Pumps fail and all kinds of stuff happens.
Well, yeah,
That's
that's maintenance in there.
Okay.
So that's in this, but I'm just saying, we don't necessarily have this pot of money for, you know, other things.
You don't have a
Contingency.
slush fund?
No, you
No,
don't slush fund.
yeah,
Well, she should have called contingency and the usual.
We do, because we have line items for maintenance and rehabilitation and those projects, so we're always, accounting for that. It's just not as what you were referencing, a reserve.
Can I?
Yeah.
I was sort of looking for like a bottom line that might say what the balance is in the fund.
Yeah.
Like how much money
Monies.
is there now and how much money, and across any of these exhibits,
So
I don't see.
So we've been working on it's called a source and use analysis, and we're just not done with it, so because of the staffing. So I mean, we've done it, it's just not, it's not finalized to bring to you yet. It's still being vetted internally, which is what I think you're looking at. It's what's money's coming in and what's coming out and what's left.
Right, sort of like my bank account, so I
Yes.
saw.
Yeah.
The balance in the account,
Right.
and then what we were, like, I can't tell if we're running negative, we're running positive, and so we're
Yeah.
slightly, I'm not saying we're flying blind, but if it, like, I can't tell, like, if we're gonna make it through this allocation and have enough money.
To build all 13
Yes.
projects together. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to tell from this.
Okay, I just wanna
You
make
wouldn't be
sure that I
able to-
wasn't
so-
opining on
No,
that,
no,
so.
no, and I think maybe we need to go back and just clarify what these columns mean. I don't know, so maybe you wanna do that, or you maybe.
Yeah, I apologize for jumping in.
No, but I think, so how we did this in the fiscal year 23 budget, for example, you'll see Corporation Way had $3 million. And that was because we were hoping to start construction on that project, we did design. We've been moving that money forward, like you'll look at the date, for example, storm drain 2100 represented the year 2021, which was start construction. Because we have secure easements from the private property owner where the pumps are gonna be located. It took us a year and a half to go through that exercise. And now that we have the easements, we're still going through our planning entitlements, we're going through the building department, we're at basically at almost 95% complete of the plans. We're hoping to go out to bid later on. The money's just been carrying forward. And you can see, for example, on this East Meadow Drive, East Meadow Circle, we have the proposed fiscal year 2024, the amount that was proposed for those two projects, SD 26 and SD 22,000. That's how much money, and then we can compare those numbers to what the actual bid that we received. So you can see whether or not we're over or under, maybe to the big picture in this. But we don't have all 13 projects laid out. I haven't. I have a spreadsheet where I said, if we can push things forward, this is how, when projects are gonna cost, this is when we're gonna move forward. Right now, I'm aiming to get these projects in place. And what has been on the capital books budget for years is Lewis Road is the one that is next in line to get built after we do East Meadow Drive, East Meadow Circle, the two small pump stations and the East Bay Shore and West Bay Shore upgrades. Lewis is next, but again, following the last storm, maybe we swap some things around, so there's still, that hasn't been determined, that hasn't been moved ahead, but this was kind of the idea. You'll also notice on this page that SD 26,000, that was scheduled to be a project that I set for the year 2026.
Okay,
But I was hoping to get a better bid estimate if I lumped East Meadow Drive, East Meadow Circle, based on close proximity to each other. And both projects are similar in nature, pipeline upgrades. So we were approved in fiscal year 24, last June, May, to advance that project. So you'll see how the money sort of got put in here. We're moving some stuff forward, and this is just tracks how much money we have in the budget. And then we have to kind of balance this with the actual bids that we receive.
so do you have fees also? I'm just thinking like where I live, I live in a transition zone.
Yeah.
They buy a house to rip it down.
Yep.
Put in a permit required, and it takes a year and a half for the city to approve it, so the thing just sits there and deteriorates and crap falling into the drainage system and what have you. Then they start to build and then they hook up to your system. So you come out and hook them up, and you come out and do stuff like that all the time, and so is that part of O and M, or how do you, and you have fees for that,
We
right?
do, we have a separate revenue stream coming in for development fees or inspection fees, because we
Okay.
also have a stormwater inspector.
So if I may, that's the question I have about this sheet, is there's something called source of funds, and they're all external. There's no internal source of funds on this sheet. Is there a reason for that? It just confuses me.
I think because we just pulled this directly from the adopted 23 budget. We don't have the internal analysis for you here. So,
But wouldn't, in order,
so this is the capital side of it. There's
Yeah.
another budget page that's talking about the ongoing, operating budget for stormwater.
okay, and so all the stormwater fees are going into the operating budget. Okay,
Yeah,
that's the
that's-
answer.
well,
to the
it's-
question.
It's
Interesting.
the specific stormwater component of the budget. This is the challenge, Roy, because my position's in multiple funds, so. you
Yeah,
know,
I
we
know
have certain
this.
FTEs that
I
are go to
know.
the stormwater budget, and then other FTEs that are dedicated to a variety. Like Michelle's position, I think, is half general fund, half stormwater fund,
Okay,
so.
but the place that income shows is in the operating budget.
It's in the operating budget, and I'll make sure to send that out
That's
to you.
fine.
I think we did
It's the
send you guys
answer
when
to
it
it.
was approved, we sent out the full budget, but we were just kind of showcasing what's going on with capital, because this is really what.
Okay. It's
So
not
you
so,
have a-
and I'm
oversee.
glad we're getting all these outside sources of funding.
But on
That's great.
fees, you have the ability to raise easier than anything else.
So-
So if it's not, if your
Yes.
budget's not being met,
Yeah.
you can take care of that one.
And
right?
that one goes, there's a municipal fee schedule, and it gets basically usually raised up every year by CPI.
Okay, yeah,
For those fees, unless we do a full cost of service analysis, and we have done that on how many, hours are we spending doing different things, so we have. One for an inspector doing C3 inspections, which are
Okay.
the storm drain, the green storm and infrastructure on private development. Is kind of what it would, is that what we would call it? And then we also have a stormwater inspector that goes out to larger construction sites.
Mhm.
And we do bill them during the time that we're inspecting. And so that has gone up, and that is a revenue stream that comes in.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Bob looks like he has a thought.
Well, it was only that. I want you to help us feel like we're doing our fiduciary
Yeah.
duty. And, even the best you can to kind of, and to me, the fiduciary would be, what were we gonna get done over the period of the fund? Where's our balance and where are we going? And it feels a little bit like, well, this is. We feel like, well, we'll give them a lot of charts. And I feel like I'm seeing a lot of numbers, but the simplest duty of us is that plan. So even if it were. Whatever the famous man who said the enemy of good is perfect, it must have been you. But I really am looking for even the roughest judgment.
Yeah.
On the fiduciary, on that number. The second thought, and it's really quite minor, but I just wanted to put it out there, is at some point we need to begin thinking about the next round of this. And I don't know if is it 2 years away? Everything takes so long in the city. But I wanted to make sure at some point we started asking ourselves,
Really?
when we're.
I think it's
decided
3
this.
years. I think at year 10, because this one's, I think it's
2032. So
Oh,
2032.
so 22, so we aren't going, because this chart ran through 2028, and I was thinking, reading it, because I was going, oh, well,
No,
2028 is the end of the show,
No,
but.
that's based on the 5-year CIP, so 2023, 24, 25, 26, 28, so it's only 5 years. But the fund itself is for 15 years.
Okay,
So
I was getting
yeah,
nervous, so again,
Yeah,
that's where. You're confusing me a little bit, and if there's, I think you got it, it would be needed the
Yeah.
next one, if we just even had a rough.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
was-
The other thing, we do get audited,
we did.
and every year, and is there any way we can get the results of the audit just to see if there's things, because they're looking at some of the same things we are, right?
There's napkins.
Yeah. This is a spill,
Eat the cookies.
this is a spill site.
I know.
So, I just, not in defense, because that's right, that's absolutely right, but we've also had it explained to us innumerable times, the complexity of it, because they don't really know when the project is gonna happen, they don't really know how much money it's gonna cost, so it's like, it's a moving target. So every time we talk about this, the target is changed, and so it makes us feel, I think, like we're not sure what's going on, but I suspect sometimes staff feels like they don't know what's going on either, so.
Well, it's
I
just
just
like,
want to
it's just like
acknowledge that.
your one bid, I mean, you had an estimate in your budget, right?
Mhm.
You get the one bid, how far off was it?
I'll have to look at the numbers. I mean, here, I'll have to remember, I don't remember offhand. For example.
But it was a 20-30% or something like that?
Vicky, what is it, 15? I think we were 15%.
15, but it was above, I mean, I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
you're-
it was,
Yeah,
I think it was
all
15%. But the other thing what we did in this project, so let me back up a couple steps and go over. So there are projects in here, we're proposing to complete 5. We've done 1, so we'll be 6. There's
Okay.
13, so that leaves us 7 left, 7 behind. Some of these are the higher end projects, like Lewis Road is a really expensive one, it's like $5 million to do Lewis. And that's broken into segments, I'm gonna have to break it, because just the extent of it. In reality, the last ballot measure that we had, the project that Rajiv was working on, the Matadero Pump Station, we completed that in 2018, 2019, 2018. So again, what's gonna end up happening, and probably this is gonna be the same here on this ballot measure, is the last couple of projects are probably gonna go beyond the 2032. Because we're gonna have money available, and we just haven't been able to spend it because of whatever other reasons, either other projects or priority. We do have a couple minor projects. There's one taking Colorado Station offline. That might be my last one. Or that might be something that just in effort, if we want to advance, get a project done, we have to figure out how to take that one offline.
Do you, if you know, like the road, reconstruction of the road, you know, because you're taking, if you're in the road strip, you know, you're taking road out, and putting
Yeah.
road back.
Yeah.
Does the road pick up any of that?
You mean the general fund money?
Resurfacing it.
Yeah, well, or,
Well,
yeah,
they try
rebuilding.
and
I mean, if you
stage
build
it
a, you build
Yeah.
a trench, a lot of it's trench building,
Yeah.
and you have to rebuild the trench, you know.
So we are
And then,
doing,
do you pay the road, or do they pay, you know, they take care of it?
we paved the road, and then we also pay them depending on when some of these streets were resurfaced.
Okay.
So there's a little bit of both. And depending on, for example, one of the projects we completed recently on the rehab section that we just did, the projects that were done last year. On that one, we did a temporary patch, and then the streets are another different department in engineering, came back and resurfaced the entire street. So we did half of it and they did the rest of it.
So do you wanna see more of that kind of information?
No,
or
I think
not
they
to those
understand.
kind of details?
I think they got it.
I think you just wanna see you wanna see the life of the fee and the 13 projects and where we're
Are
at.
we
And I
gonna
think,
succeed?
Yeah,
and what our estimates
plus or
are.
minus
Yeah.
10%. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not, you know, just engineer's best judgment.
And so keep in mind that when we discuss that, we'll talk about it, but then we're also trying to give you what our council has adopted and approved as well. So we'll just need to marry the two. Because we want to make sure that the numbers that you're seeing is the same what our council's seeing, and then also we can say that these are estimates and make sure they're very clear that they're estimates.
Right,
So
serve your
projections.
council. I'm not trying to, I'm
Yeah.
just, you know.
No, and that's what you guys, the information you do need. So
Okay, thank you.
so I think we're gonna shift from budget.
Thanks for all that hard work on the analysis. Appreciate it.
Her head's been spinning on source and use, so that's why it's not finalized yet, because there's a lot of, it's complicated with money coming in and out and development, just. Yeah, so we can show it the next time.
Okay, with that. Are we gonna move on to the
Al, do you want to introduce it, or are you ready? Are you
Go ahead,
okay?
please.
Okay. But
So the next one, we have a proposal, everybody's got a presentation for the CIP projects. There's 2 projects, and I've asked both Rajiv and Vicky to present these to you. I'll just flip the slides and let you, I think Rajiv, maybe you're first. No, Vicky. And this is just for reference, just so that everybody's on the same page. These are the map that shows the locations of the 13 projects. And you can see on the map that Loma Verde is the one shown in red, this one has been completed. We've also added the next ones that are currently under construction or under design or will be under construction soon. This one is West Bay Shore, a new pump station that Brigitte's been working on. East Bay Shore will have a similar pump station and some pipeline upgrades. Vicky's will be working, and this is the contract award that we're gonna be giving out in later this month, October 16th, for East Meadow Drive, East Meadow Circle. And then you can see the rest of the projects that are still remaining. We have one in Fabian Way, we have East Charleston. This is the one on Lewis Road that I vaguely remember. I want to say it's like $5 million, but I might be off on that one. And then the next ones that we also are considering is Hamilton Avenue and extension, and also increasing the capacity on Center. I think Center currently has 15-inch pipe, and we'll be increasing that to 36. In Hamilton, there's a section in here that there is no storm drain. We'll be adding a storm drain line and increasing to a 48-inch system.
So it's land use dependent to some degree, because it's, what happens, and
It's
the city is trying to get more densified and with their goals,
It's not necessarily land use development intended. It's basically, we did a storm drain master plan back in 2014, 2015, where we hired a consultant to give us an analysis of where are we undersized today, where do we have flooding known issues, where we can provide some sort of impact. They identified a list of projects. The report is available online. It's this thick, and the committee members can probably call more than I do. They identified the 13 projects that we could advance. And these are the 13 projects that in 2017 were approved and considered.
It seems just living here that it's more impervious surface all the time, so I see, just as an observer, and so I'm thinking that as land use changes, flows change.
Yeah.
So far you've been able to handle it, right? So, yeah, okay.
And sorry to interrupt. Can you on Zoom share your screen? Because Catherine can't see it, nor can Vicky and Rajiv. They're supposed to be presenting.
Oh, I love that when I'm doing my presentations.
Sorry, guys. You should have Teams chatted me that you couldn't see the screen. I apologize, Catherine.
I was following along on the link you sent.
Okay, good. Well, probably be good. Thank you.
I don't think Michelle probably has.
Just one
another right
question.
To share.
She does. I made her
Oh, you're dealing with.
a panelist. Well, I like that he's a panelist. It doesn't stop.
No.
You think we would get all this done by now after all these years?
No, it's a headache. Every day something happens.
Yeah,
Thanks, Michelle.
I had a question for Michelle, that she's done.
All right.
Share.
Child calling, I'm not
Oh,
sure
good
why.
luck.
No, he's totally fine.
There's stuff being
I
children
remember
about
that
when they're 35.
But I'm in the middle of it early.
Can you guys see my screen? I'm assuming you can.
Oh, you're not. Excuse me.
Okay, good. I see, we're nodding. So Catherine, sorry, I didn't realize I wasn't sharing or that piece wasn't, you guys are missing. Is there anything you needed to recap?
No, I saw it all. I was following on the link that Karen sent out earlier. I was fine. Otherwise I would have squawked, believe me.
Is there, number one, I appreciate as a resident of Crescent Park, the prioritization of the Center Drive and Hamilton, at least the extent of it done. I wanted, because of the Louisa Court flooding, I keep looking and not understanding, whether the Hamilton Avenue enhancements would analyze Louisa Court and mitigate the flooding that happened there. And do you have flexibility, and is this even the tool? I'm seeing a line, but you might go, Bob, this is not the tool. So
So what, by increasing the capacity on Center and Hamilton, we would pick up whatever runoff, surface runoff gets picked up in those areas. We would add inlets as well. So by association, Louisa Court could be minimized impacts during a similar storm event, large storm event. Impacts in Louisa Court could be minimized if we're directing the flows that would be on the surface that would normally may not make the based on the existing pipe size. Also, by picking up this segment, we would be diverting it towards on Hamilton, it would get towards a 96-inch San Mosquito Creek, as opposed to getting towards Channing. So in short, this would minimize some of the flooding in that area. Whether it would minimize Louisa Court in specific, that's hard because at this point, Louisa Court is sort of a cul-de-sac and a dead end.
Right. Would you? Well, it's a. Yeah, it's a concern. And then the other thing I've noticed living on Dana is there are not many inlets on Dana. So Dana, Dana really was quite a river, let me put it that way.
Yeah.
And so I'm just hoping that, and maybe it's the inappropriate time, but as you look at this as a project, it's not, if there's flexibility not to be, if you want to call it narrow, that this was the line that was put in the budget measure, so we cannot, you can't deviate and more examine this hydraulic regime to consider what might be the optimal, an optimal solution, looking at Louisa, looking at Dana, the Ashby, it becomes like a lake as well. And I think the neighborhood would see this project and think that it would be working from a design basis that would be looking at that, polygon that it would encompass.
What year are
Can I
you
just
looking
finish
at?
my son? Can I finish with, just go ahead. I want to hear her response before we pile on.
So, and I don't want to take too much time to talk about Hamilton or Center right now at this
Okay,
meeting, so
that's
we
fine.
can talk about this maybe at another time or
Great.
something more specific. But I think to answer your question is we are looking at improvements we can make to minimize flooding, independent of the CIP projects. We've got to
Okay.
build CIP projects, but we will be looking at, we've already made we've made some changes. And Vicky will speak to on what her contractor is going to be scheduled to do for us as well. So we are considering improvements that we could make.
Great.
We're sort of kind of confound
That's a good
again
one.
based on like, where can we get the most bang for our buck?
I don't want to take any more time than you want, but wanted to.
Is what storm flow are we looking at, 5-10 years or something like that, so.
So our standard,
Design flow,
our standard design is for 10 years.
10 year, see, that's like, we were getting what, 50 year. And they also have that orifice essentially with that bridge. That the water, it was backing up water from it. So, which I don't think you can, you can't take that into consideration, because that took 100-year flood to make that an orifice, right?
We can talk about the bridge, but that's probably gonna be outside of what the committee has.
Okay.
Over. So,
Okay, yeah.
but let me segue into the Gavin, Vicky to talk about incorporation, because I think you might like some of these, what she's proposing.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then she can enjoy a cookie.
Yeah, okay, thank you. This is Rajiv Hara. I'm the engineer at the Storm
Rajiv.
Group. Yeah, okay, this is Rajiv. This is Corporation Way and West Bayshore Road Pump Stations and System Upgrades Project. This is the next project that's been under design with the consultants. So Michelle, can we go to the next page? Okay. Project status update, February 7, 2023. We received 2 notarized and signed agreements to grant easements for installation of pump station from private owners. And the private owners were Google property. So we're installing these 2 pump stations one on West Bayshore Road and the other on East Bayshore Road. That is on Google property. And we received an easement on February 7, 2023. And as of today, consultant is completing the final design to advance the project to construction. So right now, consultants have already consultant is the Schaff and Wheeler. They've already completed 99% of the design, and where the city is doing a review for the 99% plans. And by next, and we're also going through a internal planning application with internal planning applications, and we've submitted those planning application forms to Google because they're the owner of the property, so they need to sign off. Once they sign the planning application and the building permit is completed, we plan to complete the bid documents to be completed by October 2023. So we plan to get all this planning application, all that completed by the end of this month. And the bidding process for construction to be completed by February 2024. So going through all the process and going through all the city approvals and going through the city council approvals, we plan, hopefully we can get all this to construction on February 2024. Next page. Construction estimated to start Corporation Way Pump Station and pipeline upgrades and West Bay Shore Roads Pump Station trunk line upgrades March 2024 and completed by end of 2025. So we'll be doing the construction for both those East Bay Shore and pump station and West Bay Shore pump station simultaneously. So 2 pump station projects going on at the same time. So hopefully we can get it all done, get it all completed by July 2025. And construction for West Bay Shore Road pump station trunk line upgrades and Corporation Way pump station and pipeline upgrades will start and end at the same scheduled date. Next page.
Does anyone have any questions, Hold on, Reggie, regarding this?
Practical question and kind of a blue sky question. The practical question is, are there any disruptions that the neighbors notice in these projects? Is there any disruption to traffic, or is there anything else that people notice?
Well, the construction, once the bidding process starts, we'll be notifying the neighborhood for the disruptions on traffic, but there'll be a lot of traffic controls, obviously on West Bay Shore Road and East Bay Shore Road, but the roads will not be blocked. There will always be one lane open on both the streets, East Bay Shore and West Bay Shore Road. So I don't expect a major disruption because there will be traffic open 24 hours, and this one lane will be open.
And the more general question is just a matter of interest. Can you talk just a little bit about the companies that do this kind of construction work? Are there any names that we would recognize? What other kind of project? Are they building dams out in the middle of Ethiopia? Are they putting sidewalks in Burlingame? What kind of companies do this kind of work?
So the companies, if you're talking about consultants, the consultant that's been working with the city.
Construction or
No, just construction.
Construction.
contract. Who's bidding on these projects?
Well, in a Matador pump station, we had Anderson Pacific construction company. They did the bid and they did the construction. And as far as other for other construction, there are a lot of other companies, construction companies that do this work. It's not I don't think it's a very specialized work because these are very small pump station projects. It's only 15 horsepower or 25 to 35 CFS pump stations on both the sites. So
Could you
one of
talk about the SCADA? Can you mention about who's doing the SCADA?
the SCADA is the Schaff and Wheeler, but the Schaff and Wheeler is the consultant, and whoever is the contractor will be doing the programming for the SCADAs. Well, SCADA, in a sense, the SCADA is the water quality control plan, right? So all the information, all the pump station information that will be connected to the SCADA in our city SCADA system, and the programming will be done by the consultants.
We have, what I was getting at is, this is general construction. Like, we have a lot of companies dig a hole, install a pipe, upsize the pipe, install a bypass, make sure they meet the requirements. We've done this in the past. We've been Anderson Consulting did the last Matador. I'm assuming they might submit a bid. They were a little bit problematic, but they might submit a bid. Golden Bay has been doing a lot of our other work, and Vicky will go in her project. They've been working on a lot of our projects. But we have one company that we deal with and routinely to make sure that the brains of the pump stations are working. And so there is a specialized firm that we work with routinely who was on board during the Matadero Creek pump station, We had a couple storm events back in 2017 that we were testing the system. Like we actually had water in the creeks and we had ability to pump as much as possible. So we were running kind of a late in the day exercise, bringing in these folks from Sacramento because we were having system problems internally. So we do have folks that are local. We do have folks that we use on a regular basis. We also have folks that TJC, for example, they're not the contractors, but they're helping us run the brains of the pump stations. And we've done work with them on a couple places.
But we don't have the ability for overflow a lot of places because we don't have creeks right by it or, you know, well, we do in a lot of cases. So we have overflow into the creeks if we have, if we
Yeah.
go over. So that flood that you saw that picture of.
Yeah.
Was 100 years, some damn thing, right?
No, the one up here, this photo.
Right.
This happens routinely, and that's because the flap gates that
Okay.
close the pipes during when the creek water,
Okay.
when the levels on creek water are too high, the flap gates cannot
So
open
the
against
people
pressure.
that live there should know that there, you know, likelihood that's not gonna happen again once this project is done. Okay,
And that's more business parks,
right,
that area. This one specifically.
okay.
Um,
So then they maybe are willing to put up with traffic problems, knowing that this, you know,
Solving.
if you do the good job with PR or something. You're trying to help, you know,
yeah, right.
as opposed to my neighbor that building next door to me is not trying to help me at all, so, sorry. You know what I mean, so anyway,
Temporary though.
Cal, did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
good, that's nice, yeah.
Vicky?
Hi everyone. I'm going to present to you about the East Meadow Drive capacity upgrades and the East Meadow Circle connection to the Adobe pump station. Next slide, please, or scroll down. So this map, which you've seen before, is essentially the project overview. So the scope includes upgrading the storm drain system on East Meadow Drive. And what we're going to do there is that we're going to upsize that from a 36-inch to a 48-inch pipe. And then on East Meadow Circle, we're going to be installing new 15-inch pipe. So that way we can create that bypass to connect to East Meadow Drive to kind of avoid all the flooding that we've been experiencing in the past couple of years. And the whole point of this, again, is to accommodate the 10-year flow.
For reference, the space or East Meadow Circle tends to flood as well. The flap gate on the drains water into Barron Creek gets closed and we can't drain into the creek when the water levels are high. So this will then create a bypass and direct whatever floods are occurring at East Meadow Circle will get picked up and pumped into Adobe Creek pump station, which is located right here.
This is mostly for my colleagues. As I look at this map and reflect on the buildings that I know are there, as our city fathers and mothers look at the housing element and look at where we could be putting housing, isn't it somewhat remarkable that we have all of these industrial and commercial buildings in this neighborhood, which would be so handy for housing if it were so zoned? That isn't that, to me, it's
That's what
very,
we're going through, isn't it? Yeah.
to me, it's very striking. And what makes it relevant, of course, is that if there is wonderful, efficient, predictably robust storm drain service in that neighborhood, somebody could look at this and say, you know what, all of the tenants in those buildings, they could be down in Morgan Hill somewhere and we could have housing in this. To me, it's striking as an opportunity.
Something maybe symmetrically I want to introduce. I'm not quite sure, but if you're digging here, groundwater is pretty shallow, correct? This is, this is, I think, Karen, you know what this is an area where we have a lot of residual solvents left. And
Yeah.
so when one frankly would need to be thinking about vapor intrusion from the solvents, but I want to just to remind you on the project that as you do the construction dewatering, you should hold an eye towards the consequence of plume stability. Because you could be moving the VOCs in, and so I'm happy to help you think about it, you know, I mean, that map. But if you look at the map, you'll see that, and I'm not able to do that, but I just wanted to point it out that you could have VOCs in the dollar groundwater.
Have you done, do you go in and?
But
do-
your real comment to
you
my
do groundwater
comment is that
analysis
there's some
before
schmutz
they-
in that.
Before they.
Right,
allow
but you
the
can
dewater?
mitigate that, you know, you can,
There's some schmutz in that ground that
yeah.
you have to worry about
If we
before.
were to do groundwater
you have
analysis,
people
it
living there.
fluctuate. So as far as the depth, but we tell the contractor, assume that you will have to groundwater dewatering here. And in reality, what they end up doing, this isn't a significant stretch of pipe that we're putting there. I mean, it is and it isn't.
But you know, the history of groundwater dewatering in the city where it with high levels and where they were breaking people's houses apart.
Right.
And,
But
so you have to, you know,
in this case, I think what we're doing. The pipe segment that we're, for example, that 36-inch that's on East Meadow Drive right now, it's gonna get up tight to a 48-inch pipe. So we're pretty much trying to increase the capacity of the system. There's a pipe in place, one block, we could probably get all that installed within a short amount of time. All the work is in, like Loma Verde, for example, Loma Verde, we had to make sure that we did one block at a time to minimize the impact to the
right.
residents. Here, we're doing one block at a time, but if it's right next to each other. So you're right, there may be some groundwater dewatering and also bypass for whatever the water is in the pipe itself that we need to account for. But hopefully it's going to mitigate and minimize and prevent future flooding along East Meadow Circle.
Yeah, it was more you have obligations when you manage your construction dewatering flows. I just want to make sure you were heads up that you might have some VOCs in there. A great project. I support it.
So on this project, in addition to doing the CIPs on East Meadow Circle and East Meadow Drive, we will be including GSI on this project. So we found an opportunity to install a fire retention in the landscape areas on East Meadow Circle. So basically this will be in front of the multifamily housing. So we've been working with Pam on implementing this feature as part of the project. Another part of this project is that we're also going to include storm drain rehab. So based on the winter 2023 storms, you're going too far. Just you can stay there. From the winter 2023 storms, we've noticed that there were a lot of pipe failures. We've seen a lot of flooding in certain parts of the city, and we essentially had to wait for the storms to pass, and then include all those areas where we've seen a lot of issues and incorporate into this project. We know it's going to be El Nino year, and we are anticipating some rain, so we are trying to patch up I think 4 locations in the city to fix all the broken pipe from last year's storm. So not only is this project 2 CIPs, but we're also expanding it to include the GSI and rehab. On this project, we went out to bid it in July 17th, and we closed it on August 7th. It is on the council agenda for October 16th, so we're expecting us to be able to award the contract and issue the notice to proceed later this month. So we were hoping that they would start construction in October, but after talking to the contractor, it might be early November, just because we need to review submittals, and they need to order the materials for procurement. And then anticipated completion of construction is going to be April 24, so early spring.
So with the contract, do you have I mean, does he have a bid that, does he have a time he has to get done? And does,
Yes.
you have some kind of a bond, and if he doesn't get it done, it starts costing him so much a day? Is that in the way that you have your contracts?
Yeah, that's how the city has their contracts established. That's pretty standard.
Well,
As
Sometimes it
for-
is, sometimes it's not, but they can work a change condition really easily, so typically, and get around it, depending on the contractor and their history, but I'm just curious, so, yeah.
Yeah, and when we go out to bid on these projects, there is a set timeline, so it's about 7 months, so that's the expected duration of this project, so they are expected to finish the project on time. If they aren't, then we typically have additional paperwork, and in terms of contract extension, maybe there were like unforeseen issues in the field, so it just really depends, but based on what we went out to bid with and the expectations, those are pretty much set in stone up front. But you never know what's gonna happen once you start construction and you open up the streets.
But the city's costs are per month too, because you have to have inspectors and you have to have people working the project, so. If it goes on, it's not just the construction, it's your management costs go up, so.
Yes.
There is a fine, so there is, if unforeseen, I don't expect that out of this construction company. We've worked with them in the past.
Okay, so they're pretty
So I-
good,
so I don't need
okay,
that, I don't
so it's not a
expect that,
change
but-
condition starting the first day,
Exactly,
crap,
no,
okay.
But there, we do have language in the contract that if they do, for whatever reason, they decide to file the bankruptcy, they walk away, if they prioritize some other project that's causing us delay, then we can start accruing more fees and fining them for that.
Good. Have we done that in the past?
I think we have, but I vaguely recall, I wanna say.
Okay,
we
I'm
have.
just saying it's
Yeah.
hard to do, and they have the
Yeah.
attorney costs, anyway, I'm sorry, yeah, you know the problem.
One tiny point, I've been working a lot on a problem called PFAS, and I wanted to just offer one insight is that as you look at the materials of construction, it would be unfortunate if the materials of construction were actually leaching or releasing PFAS into the stormwater system. I don't know whether that happens, but when one talks about, hey, what's gonna happen with our stormwater management plan and all the stuff in the next 5 years, I think we'll see PFAS coming forward, which will raise our costs. And so the more we can start having an eye towards limiting and, restricting it from in our stormwater materials. And you may have already done that, you may have already thought about it, I just wanted to put it out there.
I don't think they're typically in high density polyethylene pipes, which is what these are. I mean, I know it's a ubiquitous compound in terms of a lot of products. We do PFAS sampling at the Ocean plant, so that's why we're well versed on it, but I don't think it's in these products, so.
Just an eye towards it,
Yes.
you don't know about the adhesives,
Correct.
just whatever, maybe they're welding, but I just
Correct.
wanted to just put it out there, because it's a coming.
All these little sites that HP was messing with and all that, I mean, you see all kinds of construction projects, buildings. Where they've had to come in and decontaminate.
Yeah, they do pump and treat.
Right. That was,
Yes.
and you catch it, some of those you catch by surprise. So, because there was a lot of stuff happening in this city, something. And I guess part of what you were saying, you don't know for sure until it hits it.
Yeah.
I mean, we're also bound by industry standards. So for example, we have our city standards that we use, there's certain pipes that we specify as concrete or HDPE pipes, what we typically use. But we can't mandate necessarily what the contractor is doing on the field, they're gonna use whatever means and methods they feel is appropriate. There's certain things that we do have some control.
But the days of, for instance, PVC pipe rope, right, vinyl is nasty stuff, so. A lot of places are replacing all the PVC with HDPE or something because it does start to skate, and there's nothing worse than vinyl. I mean, it's just carcinogenic at measures in parts per billion, so. Anyway, yeah. But, good job.
Nikki, anything fun?
All right. So this project essentially costs about $1.56 million. As you can see on the table on the slide, this is a breakdown of the funds associated with this project. Just because we have numerous aspects lumped into this project, you'll see that we're pulling from 5 different funds. You're gonna see East Meadow Drive, East Meadow Circle, the storm drain rehab for all the broken pipe from the winter 23 storms, the green stormwater infrastructure that essentially covers the GSI of the bow retention on our project. And then the 5th one is sidewalk repair. So some of the storm drain rehab items that we're doing, all the broken pipe, it will incorporate some removal of sidewalks. And luckily we do have a sidewalk fund that we can pull of that repairs these really old sidewalks that are expected to be replaced anyways. So you can see the breakdown and what we've incorporated onto this project. One thing to note on this breakdown is the contingency for number 3, the storm drain rehab. So one thing that we did different on this construction contract is that we've actually increased the contingency to 15%. The standard is typically 10%. So if you see on all the other funds, the project funding, it's about 10%. But just because we know that we are working during the wet season and we do typically anticipate pipe failures during the wet season, instead of waiting for the rainy season to be over, finishing this contract, and then waiting to start another contract to fix the broken pipes, should any pipe failures occur during our construction timeline, we've increased the contingency to 15%. So we have additional funds to fix any pipes that may come up during the wet season. So that's what we're essentially doing here. That's different on this contract. It's just a little prep ahead of time, knowing that it's going to be a wet year and anticipating pipe failures.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm looking at a number of the contingency of the storm drain rehab, and I appreciate what you're saying, but that doesn't look like 15% of the contract total. Is that, am I looking at it wrong? Or is it of the total encumbrance? Even so, it's like 50%, 40% or something.
No, it's 15, isn't it?
So it's
300?
I can see some
It's
tens.
25.
What?
It's 25%.
Is it 25?
So
Oh, okay.
and part of that, so Kevin, to your question,
Oh, I have the wrong number in the version I'm looking at. It says 212,000.
You're right.
no, it's the same. It's the same. It's the same. So one of the things, so typically you can see if here, for example, East Meadow Drive, East Meadow Circle, it's a 10% contingency between each of these tasks. And
Right.
Yeah. But on storm drain rehab, there's projects, there's already work that we're going to do. So there's 10% already allocated to that. But in addition to that 10% that is included, which would have been 25,000, out of this, we're adding an extra 15% out of the total number.
Total number of what?
The 1.6, yeah, the
Total
1.5 million. So
Oh,
But
that's
the-
Palo Alto math.
But number 3,
So
number
it-
3, the contingency is almost 100%.
If you go on the horizontal line,
So we're saying number 3, what we did is, that is our storm drain rehab projects, which is typically 236,000. But because we anticipate a wet year, what engineering did is they took the contract total dollar amount of encumbrances and added 25%, which is where you get that 212,000.
I see. So it's 25% of a different
Yeah.
number
So-
than the other line items.
Correct.
Correct. And-
Okay,
and
thank you.
and-
I understand.
To get to one of Bob's earlier comments, this is something that we're doing now. And what we did in the last year is we use our own operation services funds folks to repair. So our folks were not only going out fixing things, but they were also making sure that the system was running and efficient. So here we're bringing a contractor to help us fill in the gaps and perform some of the work as opposed to using city staff.
So can't you just add a line for that though somehow, because it says contingency off of line 3, and that's not really what it is, it's a bigger,
It's a bigger, yeah, it's a bigger piece. Yeah, and maybe we could have provided it and presented it differently for the purposes of this meeting.
yeah. I mean,
I think
just,
for us,
Yeah.
we don't exactly know what those tasks are going to be. We don't know where we're gonna
you
need
could
them.
have a line
But-
item that says, something else, call it something else.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying,
Is
because
it-
right now, it says it's a contingency and it's not,
Yeah.
And I take it it's citywide, it's not just
Citywide.
okay, it's not like in the East Meadow
No.
area, so if there were something, that's great, that's clever. I appreciate having
Right,
the resources.
but show it that, and
Well,
I think
it's-
what everybody will.
But it
agree.
is this
Yeah.
overall, it does actually line up. I mean, we could show it slightly different, but it is for us and budget reasons. It is gonna be billed. Throughout the backside, the storm drain system rehabilitation and replacement rehabilitation. So
Can we have a line item for, or like another column or something, external something, or so, there's, we
yeah,
can sit around here and come up with.
we'll
a
showcase it a different way next year, but the
Yeah.
way I'm just, for those to understand why we did it the way we did it is because it's gonna go in that one line item.
Okay,
So when we have that contractor, it's gonna be tied to that capital work.
right,
Great.
so
So
when you get your guy come in to audit it, he's gonna understand.
they're gonna know that we're added funds specifically to this because we anticipate wet weather.
So what you're saying is this slide, the numbers on the slide are just to be taken at face value rather than sort of saying, oh, it's a percentage
Correct.
of this or that. So it's just, if we look at it at face value at those numbers, that's what you're reporting at, it's correct. And that's cool. Thank
That's
you.
nice. We have like almost $500,000 to help rehabilitate storm lines when we're anticipating wet weather, because our guys were working themselves to the
12-hour
bone.
shift.
I know, I was actually gonna bring a question up about required extra rehab or looking forward, planning ahead for another bad wet year. But you already answered my questions during the presentation, so I appreciate that. Good job.
All right.
And she's got another slide.
Yeah, I'm done. Thank you, everyone.
You're done.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, Vicki.
So I have a couple questions from Marilyn Keller, who couldn't be here today. I'm gonna read them, if that's okay, so you guys all hear, since she read through the packet but can't attend. So there was one question on, and I apologize, I didn't look at this sooner, but on slide 17 regarding the 2024 revenue for developer fees, violation fines and others is quite low compared to previous years. And Simi explained to me it's because we assumed grant funding, and then we don't have grant funding the next year. So it's an influx of money in terms of other revenues. So,
And I will go back and check it
Check it.
one more time and I
Okay.
think sometimes what happens is like. If I ran this when you were still kind of midway of the adoption process and.
Yeah.
So I'd have to check it too, but.
and then another one on the recurring system repair costs going up so much compared to before 2023. I think we just explained that. Yes, I think we're good. Okay, just want to make sure that Marilyn's questions are answered too.
All right. On our agenda for today, have we covered both item 4 and item 3 under new business? If that is the correct, then we have time for committee member comments and announcements. I'll just remind you that we have this on the agenda because if we didn't, we wouldn't have the right to talk about anything new. So this is your opportunity to, if something has come up or you've driven past something or whatever, any committee member concerns or announcements to be heard.
I'd do a little offside real quick. One of the major problems I see with this city is code enforcement. we don't have the staff to do code enforcement, we don't enforce codes. It based on a complaint goes to the code enforcement, the guy doesn't have time to do anything about it. So I mean, it just talking to different people throughout the city, codes are not enforced. And so if we can find these little ways of escaping money into this code enforcement deal, I think it would make the city a lot better. Because you just don't, I can give you examples of my neighborhood, one after another,
Except code enforcement has nothing to do with a storm drain fund. It has to do, it's a legitimate complaint, but
But they need money. They got no sources of money.
this isn't the department that funds.
They have some other stuff that they're doing with it.
Okay, whatever.
My suggestion, if it's not impertinent, if you'll forgive me, we're all on the same team. Ed Shikata's email address is easy to find. If you don't have it,
No, we know, and we've been doing it.
so I would recommend you
He knows.
you can even get his attention by saying, Mickelson, that bastard, ruled me out of
No, we can
order.
Go down to a meeting.
Mickelson,
I understand, just saying.
At the urging of Dina Mosser, who knows her onions, Hal Mickelson, who's just offensive,
Those are onions.
ruled me out of order by
All I'm
bringing
trying to
this
say
up.
is
at
there
the-
are codes that have to do with where you put storm drains, what you do with storm drains and all that stuff, and there is ability to say some of this money could be in enforcing the code.
Ed is both fairly and generously compensated for reading emails about things like this, and you should send him one and say,
Well, he knows. This has been an issue that's been
Mickelson ruled
addressed
me
by a
out
lot
of
of
order, but suggested that I remind you. And
Okay, that's it, sorry.
Anna, we don't need that for the minutes, but
One thing really.
these are action minutes. They're not,
That was not action.
that was not action. If there's one thing that wasn't, it wasn't action.
One thing, just to share a tiny announcement, is on October 28th, I believe in this room, we're going to have a Sister Cities Sustainability Summit talking about comparing both fire risk and flood risk across our sister city network and share best practices. And I just think it'll be interesting, and as a 30-minute sort of, for example, the city of Heidelberg, which is in a river valley, is realizing with climate change that their beautiful forests surrounding them are now vulnerable to wildfire risk. And that equally, being in a river valley, they have flood issues, and we just thought it would be, because Neighbors Abroad is celebrating just a little bit of a wrinkle, but we're celebrating 60 years as an organization on the 28th, and we thought we'd highlight it with this discussion of common flood and fire risk. And I think, Karen, you know about it.
One of the
But-
Sam Malich from my staff's gonna talk about the.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I just want to let the group know, because all the good work that you're doing, both here on flood, but then, you know, climate resilience and creek are all kind of connected.
Yeah.
So thank you, and you're welcome to come.
Thank you. Karen, should we be talking about when our next meeting is and what we expect the agenda to be?
So what I think I may have mentioned to you, or I was hoping that we might agree as a committee. We were, before the previous oversight committee met quarterly. When we first ramped this committee up, we were meeting every other month, and then we met infrequently. So I was gonna suggest we go back to quarterly, since it is usually just budget review requests, and also just to clean up your guys' calendars. So we have December on the books, but I was actually gonna suggest that we meet in February.
I was
So-
wondering why we wouldn't meet twice a year.
Well, it could be twice a year. I mean, if we don't have something, but usually with budget, we
If
need,
you have something, let's meet, but if you
Right.
don't.
I'm not
let's
trying
for
to
the
meet
sake
to
of
meet,
meeting.
which is why I cancel meetings over the summer when we
The-
didn't have items for us.
Which we appreciated.
The day will come when we have new members who need more meetings because they need to learn more. So we shouldn't get entirely out of the rhythm of.
So
Yeah, I
think
think quarterly is good.
Or at least one.
So there's a meeting scheduled in December, you said?
There is
Oh,
tentatively a
yes.
meeting scheduled in December. I will
On the
cancel
7th,
that.
December seventh.
It's the first Thursday of the month.
December 7th, day that will live in infamy.
That's.
So we
So
won't make it any more infamous. We
So
won't.
we'll do February, someone,
February will
the
be.
first Thursday of February.
Like doing your dental.
First Thursday is the
Schedule
8th.
my teeth.
All right, the first. Wait. Thursday. the
Ooh.
first.
Would be February-
Thursday, the
February first.
February 1st.
All right.
We get it.
And
Email.
cancel all those
Of
other
course, they'll
ones,
get an email.
like, you know,
Well-
somehow all these calendar invites hang out.
We
on
would-
your phone.
Yes, cancel.
No,
So I can cancel them, but if you don't remove them from your calendar, they will stay in your phone into perpetuity.
Perpetuity. Yeah.
Perpetuity, do you like that?
The old perpetuity.
Yeah.
All right, so February the 1st,
Okay.
and we don't want to interrupt anybody's busy times in the kitchen and otherwise with Groundhog Day preparations, but
good point.
I think we can squeeze it
Think
in.
you could do it?
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be a short meeting that day. Yeah.
Do we have any further or additional or corrective business? If not, then the minutes can reflect a motion to adjourn at 2:25. Does anyone so move?
So if silt is going into the stormwater system during a construction project, and that's a code enforcement issue.
All those in favor?
Is
Without
that,
objection, we're.
is that a code enforcement issue?
So that's when you email Pam,
Yeah.
and if we don't have necessarily staff to view
That's
every
what I'm
single
trying to say.
construction project.
It'd be nice if you could finance it. Because that is an issue.
But if
I'm
we
telling
get
you.
it, if we get a complaint, we will send out our inspector, but we also have a finite amount of time.
Right. I know
So, I mean, we only have one stormwater inspector, and we
I know.
don't have budget to add another stormwater
that.
inspector.
I know that.
We
And
don't
and
have,
we have it with all kinds of things during construction that are not
Right.
being met. That's all I'm trying to say.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but just for the sake of the minutes, since there were a lot of people talking
Yeah,
once, I
we're
wanted to
done.
make
This
sure
is
there
off, this
was,
is off limit, yeah.
make sure there was a second. I
Okay.
heard the motion.
There was
Seconded.
moved and seconded and no objection to
Yeah.
adjourning.
Okay.
Moved, seconded and no
It
objection.
already has been done, sorry, yeah. But I wasn't going to go,
But
I'm
Ron-
just trying to say that.
but Ron, email Pam and send a photo, and we'll send it out.
So I'll be the inspector, okay.
To our staff members, we know that, you know, these are not entertaining. These are not amusing additions to your schedule, so thank you for being here and thank you for your hard work.
Thank you guys for attending. Please eat more
Thank you.
cookies.
Thank you, bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bob, just so you know, they're downstairs.
Those are.
So if you ever want cookies, it's the downstairs lady. She makes
Thank
them
you.
at Amy's
Downstairs,
Cafe.
ladies?
I went to Tagalicious
Sandy.
yesterday and had a churro. And their churros were kind of bad.
All right, we're gonna end the meeting. Stop recording.